Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Bucknight. I hope you all are staying safe out there and enjoying this crazy time that we're in. I saw some good news, I guess, over the weekend about Europe kind of reaching their what we're calling apex, what I would call peak, because this virus is just is acting. Well, I guess the spread of the virus is just like peak oil. We want to know when we get to the maximum um, infectious rate, all right, at that doubling time, and when we have the maximum amount of people infected at the same time, if that starts coming down, maybe we'll be able to get this thing under some control and stop it in its tracks. A lot of people say it might keep on going down and we're all good to go. I say a couple days does not give me the confidence yet to say yes. But it's always good news to see that there's less people infected with the virus. That's for sure. And remember, we got to use science as well in our decision, in our policy making, and decide what we want to do, because they say also that it could have what's called a bounce back effect. This isn't like a depleting asset like oil. Understand, this is also a live entity that can mutate and come back and give us another round of wave, and we can actually have a bigger peak the second time than we did the first time. But we're smart and we understand how to handle this. So this second time, if it does happen, I don't know if it will or not, but there's definitely a potential 50-50 chance. Okay, especially if we don't find the vaccine for this at a normal rate of finding vaccines. So we usually find them in about a year and a half, and they hit the market and all that stuff, and then we got to wrap it up and produce it and all that. But it might happen. All right. So just keep watching it, and exponential growth at its finest, right? That's why I had you watch that video in the beginning of the semester. Most important video you ever seen. So before we get into managing our waste, let's see where we are right here. We're on the syllabus. So we're going to start the chapter Managing Our Waste, chapter 17 today, and then for the rest of the week probably, and then we're going to start getting into the cities of the future. All right. Hopefully everybody put in their group paper down there um, and submitted that. Don't forget, you still probably have some current events that are due. I got to go check the times. I kind of changed some of the times because of this last 2 weeks and we're kind of crazy. So there still might be a couple assignments, current events that are due. Please get those in. If you've done them late, don't be afraid to hand them in. You got until the week before finals. We'll probably have a test. I'll make an announcement of this, decide when we're going to do it, because it'll be kind of self-graded on the Blackboard. I'll put a Blackboard test up for you so you can take the test via online, and I'll give you a time frame like whatever the 55 minutes or whatever it is for the class to take the test, and then you can just do that right online, and I'll give you a nice little couple days so you can plan your time wisely and block out a good section of your time for that test. And then we'll also have the final too, and I have to give you the final. All right, everybody's going to have to take the final in this class, and that will be due by the time your final is due. So whatever day, I'll have to look on the syllabus. So this one, the comprehensive exam, I can't remember what syllabus this is, my Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday class, I'm not too sure, is Wednesday, April 29th, 8:30 to 10:30. So if this is your date for this final, that's when it is going to be due. It's going to be due by 10 o'clock on April 29th. And then we'll have to check the other class and see what date that is. Okay, and that's how they want us to structure the finals for you. Can't really give you a scheduled time, all right? But I need to block out that time, 8:30 to 10:30, for you as a student to have that time. All right, so just think that your finals for Robert Morris are going to be just the same as they were on campus, but they will be online. Okay. Now, having said that, I'm allowed to post this early for you. All right. But I can't give you any more time than Wednesday, April 29th at 10 o'clock if this is your class. All right. And then the other class will be on there scheduled time. I think it's Tuesday at 10 o'clock or something like that. Okay. All right. So we're basically on time, and I think I'm just these are the next two um, chapters we're going to do. Managing waste. I put that PowerPoint up on Blackboard for you, and I might do the future cities. I'll probably post that a little bit later. All right. So that's what we are. We're going to be talking about managing our waste. And there's always been the three R's in managing our waste because there really is no away here in the world. Okay. The law of thermodynamics says we cannot create or destroy matter. It's always with us. It just gets less useful over time. Okay. It turns into what's called waste in our vernacular. Okay. And there's always been the three R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. First, we need to reduce the amount of waste we generate. Then we need to reuse, all right, not change the makeup of something. We want to make sure that that tire stays a tire or that bottle stays a bottle. All right, so we reuse the things over and over and over again without changing its form, and hence not using as much energy. And then we recycle, all right, which means that we do change the form. We take that glass bottle, we melt it down, and make another glass bottle out of it. Or we take that plastic bottle, we melt it down, and make another plastic figurine out of it, instead of not doing that. All right. But in today's world, it's changed, and I came across this little R's because I used to add in refuse. So I made it four R's. I made it refuse. First, don't take that stuff. All right, just don't use it. Okay, and then you want to reduce. All right, and then recycle and all this. So they've added in seven R's in this, so it's getting a little complicated. There's a lot of R's. But what they're talking about in this video, it's kind of wonky and kind of boring. But what they're talking about really makes sense to me. All right, adding these extra R's into
Hello friends,
our waste
here we are
streams.
with yet
Okay,
another session on
so
waste management.
you haven't seen the first session, so
Previously,
if you
we
want to go
learned
back and
about
check it on
all
YouTube,
the
go ahead.
various steps
Right, because it talks
involved
about
in
how we
waste
do the stream
management,
waste. It's pretty
focusing
in,
mainly
in,
on
enlightening and
transportation,
exciting. So feel free
treatment,
to go back and check it out. But let's watch about the
and
seven
disposal of the
R's that
waste.
they think we should be
And as
instituting.
promised, today we'll know the various ways to manage waste better, which will also help us in reducing the very generation of waste. Yes, my friends, it is the principle of 7 R's. The first R is rethink. We should rethink about our habits, our needs, or our basic
That's
necessities.
important. We need to
We must
really
actually
sit down
think,
and do that Ben
do
Franklin,
I
or we
really
live in the
need
right way.
this now?
And there's
The
nothing wrong
second
with that.
R
And
is
notice that's where we have to
refuse.
start
Refuse
in that
anything that
circle.
will harm our environment. Say, for example, countries like China, Bangladesh, Somalia has refused the use of plastic bag carriers by imposing a ban on it. We must think on how to avoid the use of something.
Should we make that
Third
personal,
R
or should
is
the government
reduce.
institute that?
This principle focuses on reduction in waste generation. This can be done by repairing, reusing, and sharing. Let's think of the ways to reduce the waste formation. The fourth R is
And that makes sense. We all
reuse.
save a little bit of money.
Reuse means using something again or more than one time and thereby reducing the generation of waste. Here we must think of the ways to use a product to its fullest. The fifth R is recycle. It is reprocessing of unwanted materials into new, useful products. Think of
And
how
this is
we
one of
can
the
make
toughest
new
things we need
products
to
out of the old
accomplish.
ones.
Sometimes, especially for
The
our
sixth
e-waste, it's hard
R
to
is
um,
regulate.
recycle it and get all that little tiny
The
bits of gold out of
humans
there.
throw away the waste anywhere.
And then this is
Also,
always the
many
debate.
industries
Who's going to
release
tell you?
or dump
Do we
their
want to make
waste
this
in natural
optional,
water bodies or
or do we
open
want to
spaces.
institute some laws
To
and
control
policies
these
in our countries
undesirable activities,
to make sure
there
that
has to be some rules and regulations.
we don't
It
throw
is
things
equally
away or have to
necessary to
recycle or
keep a
something like that?
control on our activity. And the last one is research. We must
And this is
research
my
and
favorite right
develop
here. All
new
right.
innovative
I love to
ways
do research.
to
Let's find
reuse the
new innovative
unwanted
ways to
material
try
and
to
reduce the
reduce
generational
and
waste.
rethink and all this other
So
stuff
think and
for
develop.
our waste streams. Who knows what's out there? And there's a lot of great things that have happened out in the world
Friends,
because
now
people
we
have
have
researched what they need to do. All right. So it's just not the three R's anymore. It's just not reduce, reuse, and recycle. All right. First, we need to rethink what we're doing. Is this making sense? Refuse the things that just are just going to hurt us. Okay. We don't need to keep on doing some of these things and repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. All right. Reduce our consumptions. All right. Reuse. Get some reusable cups instead of getting a new cup every time at Starbucks. Even though that because of the coronavirus, they'll give you a new cup. The policy is they can't touch your travel mug anymore. Recycle. Um, Try to then we after we've done reusing, then we try to recycle. Then we finally take that bent up and demolished little reusable plastic mug or whatever you're using at a Starbucks, and then throw it into the recycling can and make something new out of it. Again, regulate what kind of laws we're going to put in, and then also research our ways out of this, right? Because I do think technology is going to save us a little bit, all right? But remember, I talked about that Earthship before um, in class, okay, or I guess not in class, but on the last video, I told you to YouTube it. You can find a whole bunch. Just put in Earthship and you see all these videos. And these are pretty long because they go through big tours and actually show you how they make it. This one's actually a school, man. Yeah. Oh no, this isn't the school, but there's a school somewhere. One of these, and there's a school in Puerto Rico or something um, that is built like this. Maybe Bolivia. I don't think it's Puerto Rico. It's in South America somewhere. But these are earth trips, and what I love because it puts in all these. Rethink things, and it reuses and reduces, recycles all these different things. So what they actually do is build these homes out of tires. Okay, so right here is a back wall of a tire, and they're just pounding earth inside of it and bringing up the earth behind. Remember we talked about passive solar heating and the thermal mass that the sun will heat up. This is what's happening here. They're building up the thermal mass in the back, and this is the south. Um, so it's facing southward, so the east to west arc of the sun coming up in the morning, going down in the sun. The sun's always pointing in here and keeping the home at like a comfortable 72 degrees. Okay, it doesn't matter where you are in the earth if you do this right, right? If you do the thermal mass calculation properly and place it in the right trajectory using your math, okay, this thermal mass will keep this home at 72 degrees. Almost it doesn't matter dead of summer or dead of winter. 22 degrees below zero, it's going to be 72 degrees inside. It's amazing. Okay, and some of these videos talk about it. There's one about some retirees on here that really go into depth about how they not in depth, but talk about how it's always 72 degrees. Right, they're my peeps because I want to be able to retire in one of these, build one of these for my farm, right, and retire on it. Like that daughter live in my house. And here comes the cistern. So, okay, so they calculate the rainwater they're supposed to get, and they put in some cisterns. So the house lives off these cisterns. Okay, if it gets the water. Right here are little vents that bring in the cold air during the summertime to keep it nice and cool and put out the heat in the wintertime or in the summertime. See, they use 750 tires. And I would say they reuse these, they didn't recycle them right, because they didn't change the form. They're still in the same shape they were before. And they just pounded earth into here and brought up the thermal mass as they did it. And they throw in the rooms. All right, let's speed this up a little. And throw in the rooms and the roofing. Okay, so in here you have the cisterns in the back. But they put a plate up here to help collect the water. So part of the calculation is how much rain we get and how much rain does that collect, and it all goes back into that cistern. All right. Some people would do plant this total grass up here and make it a total roof. All right. They don't need the water. They might have well water or something like that. But it's all part of the design of living off the grid. All right. And there's a power packs for the solar array and stuff because there's solar panels on the front. Okay. And then you just divide it into different little areas and put in the walls and the rooms and all that stuff. Um, so you have natural levers, and they plant the whole front area into a little garden, right? So you can actually eat outside, right? And all the water, wastewater, goes through here, trickles through here, and waters the plants and gets rid of all the bad bacteria. It's called gray water, and that gray water goes back into the gray water goes out back into the plants outside. So if it's coming from your toilet or something like that, that goes, or your sink that would have some bacteria, that goes directly outside. But other waters where you're just basically taking a shower or brushing your teeth or something like that, that's not as dirty, or it has some pathological things in it, will go right through that little garden and just water that whole garden, right? And you got a fresh little meal every morning to eat. So, nope, tastes good, huh? Nice little burp there, kid. In this little area right here, I like because this is like a reusing. So you see all these little blue and stuff. What they do is when they plaster these walls, they actually take cans or bottles, and these you can tell these are bottles inside of here as filler, so they use less plaster, right? But when the sun comes in here, it reflects all these different colors, right? And they use thousands and thousands of bottles. You'll see here in these little tours. If you watch one of these tours, pretty much for 16 minutes, to show you all the different bottles they put in here. Or they use cans. And this uses the laws of thermodynamics, folks, because inside these bottles and cans are little air pockets, and that's how that hot air gets trapped in there, like the greenhouse effect. And then it slowly dissipates out into the areas. All right, so it's actually trapping that heat inside of there during the day, and during the night it slowly diffuses, keeping that house nice and warm. If you do your calculations right, you can figure out how to keep it nice and 72 degrees inside that home. All right, so you're, reusing, not changing the form, but actually reducing at the same time. It's magical. All right. Now you got to decide whether or not you like these designs of the Earthship if you want to live in them. All right. But they can be designed a lot of different ways. All right. But the key is to have a nice front area that is facing south. All right. So that you get the heat, and it has to be positioned right. Doing some mathematical equations. But everything should just work perfectly for you. You have a self-sufficient, off-the-grid home, right? You can live right in there. My wheelchair would go right in there. It can be perfect, all right? So check out some of these videos. Take a tour of one of these. So I love them because they are actually a design for living. And I'll put a shameless plug into this next fall semester. We're supposed to have a renewable energy and sustainable building design classes. So everybody sign up for those as an elective. I think you'll enjoy them. And we'll learn a little bit more about Earthships and some of the stuff we're going to talk about today about managing our waste, especially in the next chapter 2, designing the cities of the future, of how we're going to be able to live, especially after what's going on here with this COVID-19 pandemic happening. Okay. So chapter 17 is the next one, is managing our waste. And this is up on Blackboard for you, of course, for your delight. All right, so we're going to talk about the different types of waste we generate, how we manage those different types of waste. Each one is different, so we got to have a different kind of management technique for each one. The scale of our waste dilemma, how much waste do we actually do, and what we can do to get rid of it and reduce it. All right, and how we handle all this rigmarole. Okay, so the case study for this book was a mania for recycling on campus. And this little contest, all right, it was called Recycle Mania, and it was a competition that pitted educational institutions against one another. So the colleges and universities will do in categories such as highest recycling rate and most material recycled. So it was just a little bit of contest of how these colleges could actually increase their recycling rate on campus. And we did not participate in this, but it was a higher university, Rutgers, North Lake College. So maybe we can look into this, take them on, and see if we can do this here at Robert Morris, because our recycling rate at Robert Morris is, I think it might be non-existent. There might be some containers left over, but they tried. All right, but it's hard because of the municipality doesn't really pick this stuff up. All right, so it's hard for us because we don't have a collection area or a collector of this municipal waste to come get this stuff for Robert Morris. And that's the hard facts of it. Right? It's not like we don't want to. It's just that we don't have um, the logistics to do it here on campus. But maybe we can change that, right? We can rethink things and think how we could do this differently. But recycling reduces pollution from mining of new resources and manufacture of new goods, because that's what the purpose is. It's to say, hey, we don't have to take new stuff out. We can just reuse the old stuff, right? And just rechange it into a new form, all right? Unfortunately, we got to remember that there's no 100% recapture of the recycling. We still lose a little bit of plastic along the way, right? And there has to be energy in there. So sometimes it takes more energy to recycle something than it does to use that oil to make new stuff again. All right, so there's an equation of energy rate, the energy return on investment there. All right, so we have to realize that sometimes it's actually easier not to recycle. Okay. Similar competitions of schools competed in use of ways such as saving water, okay, or energy use. I remember one of my students did a paper on, it wasn't for my class, it was for another sustainable class, but on how many times we flush a toilet here at Robert Morris, and see what the efficiency rate would be if we changed the bathrooms into low flush toilets. Yeah, it was pretty neat. I think it got an A on it. I enjoyed it. It was nice. Um, Programs like this have made recycling in most widespread activities among campus sustainability efforts. So most campuses are instituting, a sustainability clause or a purpose or a mission, and this is all part of it. Okay, and getting the students involved to have some fun. Okay, and I think this stuff is fun. Okay. Approaches to waste management. So, waste refers to any unwanted material or substance resulted from human activity or process. Now, let me put a little caveat on it. Just because we don't want it doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't want it, or something else in the ecosystem doesn't need it. Right? I firmly believe everything's connected, and there's some way that to work everything into the ecosystem so it's all, the first law of thermodynamics is all conserved, right? It's always there, and my waste is another person's or another bug's food source. Okay, but we divide our waste, human waste, into several different categories. It's a big, huge elephant. We just like the wedge approach for trying to um, attack the energy industry. We look at our waste the same way. So we have what's called municipal solid waste, which is anything that's non-liquid and that comes from your homes, institutions, or small businesses. So your leftover refrigerator would be municipal solid waste. Your old car, um, paper, okay, garbage bags, okay, anything that is non-liquid and is collected on garbage day. Industrial solid waste is produced by consumer goods, mining, agriculture, petroleum extraction, and refining. So this is your big companies' waste. So the waste generated from our electricity, from all that coal mining, all that fracking or whatever, throughout the whole system. Then there's hazardous waste. And hazardous waste is regulated by the EPA. It has to actually, it could be a solid or liquid, all right, but it has to have some toxicity to it or chemically reactive, flammable, corrosive, something that will actually harm us as um, a species, okay, or the society or the environment in a certain way, okay. Doesn't necessarily have to harm us per se, but if it gets out into the environment or hurt that environment, then that land becomes useless. Um, but usually when that happens, it's going to hurt us too. And then we have wastewater, which is a separate entity, separated out of the equation there a little bit, and it is used, and it's all the water that we use, we go down the drain or flush. Okay, we use. It's not considered in the hydrological cycle outside with the wastewater, the runoff from our streets, stuff like that. That's not in this little area. All right, this is just the stuff that we use in our homes or industry or flush down the toilet. Okay. There are three main components of waste management. Okay, first we want to minimize the amount of waste we generate. That is the key and the first way to manage the problem the best. Okay, the less waste we make, the more efficient the system will be. Recovering discarded materials and finding ways to recycle them. All right, so making sure that we do the proper equation and making sure that throughput of the recycling is not greater than the throughput of mining them and making them from scratch. We still need, as an ecological economist, we still need to do that on both sides. But typically, recycling is less energy intensive and creates less pollution. Okay, but we got to be honest about that equation, and let's keep on finding new ways to recycle. Okay, the one of the hardest things we're trying to recycle is our phones and things like that, all these electronics. And there's a huge industry of trying to design new ways of doing that. So let's get busy, folks. We really need it. It's going to come from your generation. It's going to be the ones that are going to figure that out. And then disposing of the waste safely and effectively. So some waste we just cannot get back. I mean, we can't recycle it, we can't use it. We need to get rid of it. So it's we need as a society to decide how we're going to use that. I mean, we talked about nuclear waste in Yucca Mountain in the last class a little bit. That's where we wanted to put all our nuclear waste, and we said no, and then we said yes. So where we're going to put this stuff, okay? The waste stream is a flow of waste that moves from its source towards its destination. So it's just the laws of physics and put into action. We don't produce anything. We just rearrange those molecules, remember? So the waste stream is the beginning of taking that stuff out of its natural state, its original compartment in the ecological cycle, and we take it out there and refine it. Maybe take that ore out there, heat it down. There's some waste in that process. Make that steel. That's a little bit of waste in that process. Then we take that steel and put up the buildings and waste in that process. And then we live in that building for 100 years, and there's some waste in that process. And then the waste that jumped. Building gets imploded because we want to put up a new stadium instead of playing football in that stadium, and there's some waste in that product. And then finally, the final stage is when it goes to the landfill and goes back in there until someday, 1,000 years later, someone decides to go mine it up and see what's in there. I mean, the waste stream is just the whole total throughput of our production of rearranging the molecules on this earth. Minimizing waste at its sources is called source reduction. And that's where we got to start with the reduction. Okay, of course, we got to start right there in the beginning and see how we, use less to begin with. And it's the best way of dealing with our waste stream. Okay, so we got a big old waste stream. We break it down into different little steps. All right, the wedge effect kind of thing. All right. So we make industry practice more efficiencies. All right. So we mandate that our cars instead of getting 20 miles to the gallon in 5 years, we want them to average 25 miles to the gallon. Minimizing packaging of our products, getting you guys probably don't even use thumb drives, but in the past there were these things called thumb drives that would keep all my files on. Now I use the cloud. Okay, but I minimized the use of that thumb drive. But to get this thumb drive out of the package, it's like you have to have a crowbar. I mean, the plastic, it was crazy, the over packaging of this thumb drive. But you see that in a lot of products as well. Okay, not just thumb drives or the old thumb drive. Purchase green consumer products. Okay, so you as an individual need to do your research and go out there and decide whether you want to do that or not. But most companies will have like a sustainability clause or a mission, and they try to promote this kind of stuff. And do your due diligence and research and make sure that they actually are green and not just using that as a marketing scheme. FYI. We use an item. All right, try to I get a Starbucks cup right now, but I haven't really participated in that. Getting one. I have a reused cup that I use almost all the time. Recycling items. We do recycling here at my house. We take it down at the end of the month. There's a collection of a truck. Each municipality is going to be different. That's why I said here in Robert Morris, one of the reasons our recycling thing isn't as big as it is because we have no one who's really going to collect it, all right, and to take it away and get rid of it honestly for us. Compost at home. I think everybody should have a compost pile. Unbelievable. I love my compost. And that is just taking the organic matter and piling up in a pile and letting Mother Nature turn it into dirt. I mean, black gold, baby. It's the way to be. And adoption of municipal composting. So municipal composting is just like leaf collection. If you go to like a little town like Sewickley, everybody's out there raking the leaves, and they put their leaves out there in the little uh, paper bags, right? And then they come around and collect all the leaves and they throw it into a big huge pile, and then they got what's called leaf mulch. And then you go to the municipal authority and you can go as a citizen of that community, pick that leaf mulch up and put it all over your garden beds. And I tell you what, I was telling a story the other day. I used to work Green Tree, which is another little community. I used to have an office when I was a financial advisor up there, and they had a leaf mulch little thing before Moon Township did. Now you lived in Moon, but Moon does now. That's beside the point. But I got that leaf mulch, and I grew the biggest red potato I've ever seen in my life in that leaf mulch. Oh, it was wonderful. So if you ever want to grow some potatoes, because potatoes grow up, just go to your community center, throw down some leaves, and mulch in there, throw some potatoes in there, and just keep on covering them. And you'll have the biggest potato you ever seen in your life. At least I did. It was amazing. Okay. And then some stuff we just we can't reclaim out of the waste stream. All right. So we're trying to reclaim things in this waste stream. And that needs to go to the landfill or incinerators. All right. So we got to decide what we want to do with that stuff. So the linear movement of products from the manufacturing to the disposal is often described as cradle to grave. All right. And this is a relatively new concept. And they also have what's called cradle to cradle approach, which requires that material from products are recovered, then reused, and then create new products out of that one. And that's kind of what we study in those other classes at sustainability minor. So in the next, like in sustainable building design, we'll talk about the cradle to cradle design concept. There's a couple of companies out there that actually do this. Toyota has this, and I think their Arkansas plant here in the United States, where they try not to have any waste, zero waste generated from that manufacturing plant. We talk about how you design these kind of things, a product, so that you know what comes out, and it's not harming the environment, and any waste stream going back into the environment is not harming the environment. And you make a pledge to try to do that. All right. So that is it for the beginning part of this chapter. Next, we'll start getting into some of the bigger individual waste streams we have out there. All right. So if anybody has any questions, don't forget to give me an email. But everybody stay safe and secure and doesn't go out and into any large crowds. All right. Let's keep this thing contained. That's our best bet. Okay? Be safe. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.